3:47 p.m. That's when everything froze. I had just turned the key in the front door, balancing a plastic bag of takeout in one hand and my laptop bag slung over the other shoulder. The kind of routine movement you do 1,000 times: twist, push, step in, kick the door shut with your heel. But this time, I didn't shut the door. Because from the second I stepped into the house, something was off. It was the shoes. 2 pairs. By the stairs. Her sneakers, fine. And next to them, black loafers. Worn down at the heel. Definitely not mine. I just stood there. The bag of food in my hand got heavier by the second, sauce slowly leaking from one of the containers, seeping into the bottom. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. And warm. Unnaturally warm, like too many people had been breathing the same air for too long. The blinds were shut. The thermostat said 75. We always kept it at 68. I walked past the stairs, slowly, toward the kitchen. 2 wine glasses. One still had lipstick on it. Hers. A shirt I didn't recognize tossed over the back of one of the chairs. Not hers. A half-empty bottle of wine I didn't open. I didn't call out her name. I didn't say, "I'm home." I didn't move. I just listened. Nothing from downstairs. Then creaking from the bedroom above. I looked at the clock on the oven. 3:49 now. I wasn't supposed to be home for another 3 hours. She thought she had time. I left the bag of food on the counter and moved back toward the stairs, my footsteps silent like I was trespassing in my own home. My brain kept trying to explain it away. Maybe it's her brother. Maybe she's helping a friend. Maybe it's nothing. But my stomach already knew. I climbed the steps one at a time, heart banging like a drum in my ears. The hallway smelled like her perfume. And something else, cologne I didn't recognize. At the top of the stairs, I stopped. Our bedroom door was open 2 inches. I could see movement. I could hear her. And him. I didn't go in. I couldn't. I just stood there. And listened. And what I heard next made my knees buckle. She laughed, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard in over a year. And then she said, "He still thinks I'm going on that wellness retreat next month. He's even paying for it." A man's voice followed. Deep, smug, like he had nothing to lose. Let him. You deserve more than that boring routine anyway. Silence. Then another creak. A gasp. A whisper I didn't fully catch, but enough to know I wasn't just hearing things. That's when I backed away. Slowly. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't even blink. I walked back down the stairs like a sleepwalker, picked up the bag of food with the leaking sauce, and stepped back outside. The sun was shining. Kids were biking past the driveway. A neighbor waved at me from across the street, and I waved back. Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just heard my wife lying in our bed with a man whose shoes were still by the stairs. It's been 5 days. I haven't gone back. And I don't think I ever will. I didn't drive far. Just 2 blocks down, parked behind the elementary school, engine running. My hands were still sticky from the sauce-soaked bag. I placed it on the passenger seat and stared at it like it could give me advice. The weirdest thing was how calm I felt on the outside. Too calm. Like my body had decided to go numb before the truth could finish wrecking my insides. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there in my 2011 Civic, watching a kid try to do tricks on a scooter across the lot while my marriage collapsed in a house just around the corner. My phone buzzed in my pocket twice. I didn't check it. I knew who it was. Her tone probably cheerful, like always. "Hey babe, hope work's going okay. Let me know when you're heading home." Something completely normal. Innocent. Like I hadn't just seen another man's shoes sitting by our stairs. Like I hadn't just heard her whispering to him about some retreat I was apparently funding with the leftover balance of our joint savings account. And it hit me, I was funding it. Every overtime shift. Every skipped coffee break. Every time I stayed late at campus fixing a projector while she said she was at Pilates. She was spending my time with his body. I finally started the car again and drove to a gas station on the edge of town. It wasn't planned, just a place with bright lights and a bathroom that didn't ask questions. I cleaned the sauce off my hands with those awful pink soap dispensers and stared at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the man looking back. Not because I looked different, but because for the first time, I realized I was completely alone. I had ignored the signs. Every night she stayed out late catching up with coworkers. Every time her phone lit up and she tilted the screen just slightly away. Every time I asked how her day was and she gave me one-sentence answers. I chalked it up to stress. I even blamed myself. Not being spontaneous enough, not being adventurous like she hinted she wanted. And now, I was just a ghost haunting the life I thought we had. But that night, as I sat in the gas station parking lot eating cold dumplings from the takeout bag with my fingers, I made a decision. I wasn't going back. Not yet. Not until I understood everything. I opened my phone and scrolled through our shared calendar. The wellness retreat, she mentioned, that was next Thursday through Sunday, marked as self-care getaway. I had even booked the Airbnb myself, a cabin upstate, 3 hours out, no cell signal, no distractions. I thought I was being thoughtful. She told me she needed space, mental reset time, and I wanted to support her. Turns out, she just wanted space to lie more effectively. And that's when it began. My plan. Not for revenge. Not for confrontation. Just for the truth. If she could lie to my face so easily, then I wanted to see how far she'd go if she thought I was still falling for it. The next morning, I messaged her as if nothing happened. Hey, sorry I got held up yesterday. Long day. I'm crashing at Jack's tonight. Might help him set up his home server finally. Love you. Her reply came within 2 minutes. Oh, okay. I was wondering where you were. Love you too, Red Heart. Can't wait for our lazy Sunday. Lazy Sunday. The gall of it. She was planning a relaxing brunch with me while scheming a fake solo getaway with someone else in my house, in our bed. Probably wearing the pajama set I bought her last Christmas while he used my toothbrush. That was the moment it stopped being sadness. It turned into obsession. Not with her. Not even with him. But with the truth. I wanted to know every word, every detail, every fake excuse and smug half-truth. Because maybe then I'd understand why the woman I loved more than anything was now the stranger who laughed in my bedroom while I was out earning the future she was quietly burning. And that's when I bought the recorder. But I'll get to that soon. The next part? Let's just say, I went back. Not to confront her. Not to shout. I went back with the quietest, most careful plan of my life. Because if she was going to keep playing a role, I was going to become the invisible audience. And I was never going to blink. I returned to the house 2 nights later, long after I was sure she'd be asleep. I parked 3 blocks down and walked the rest of the way, hoodie up, breath held. It felt ridiculous, like I was sneaking into my own life. But it wasn't fear that made my pulse race, it was clarity. For once, I wasn't just drifting through her lies with a smile. I was finally awake. I had the recorder in my pocket. It was one of those voice-activated ones you can get online if you dig through enough product reviews. Small, black, barely thicker than a lighter. I tested it 4 times the night before in the motel bathroom just to make sure it picked up sound clearly through walls. The plan wasn't grand. Just careful. I slipped in through the side door we never locked, ironic, considering how much of our lives were now unlocked in the worst ways. The living room was dark, the only light coming from the soft glow of the TV screen savors cycling through scenic landscapes. On the coffee table, a half-drunk glass of wine. Her wine. And next to it, her phone face down. Again. Always face down. I didn't touch anything. I didn't breathe loud. I crept past the hallway, past the kitchen, and into the office, our old spare room that we converted when she started working remote last year. The air was stale. Her yoga mat was rolled out, and since burned down to ash in a little dish. I pulled out the folding step stool from the corner and positioned it beneath the ceiling vent. That's where I placed the recorder. In the vent above the desk, angled perfectly to catch sound from both the office and the adjoining bedroom wall. I secured it with double-sided adhesive and made sure it was flush. She'd never notice. Then I backed out slowly. Didn't open drawers. Didn't look through messages. I didn't want half-truths. I wanted everything. And by morning, I had more than I expected. Because I waited in my car outside a 24-hour diner until the sun came up, pretending to eat toast, pretending to drink coffee. My hands trembled the whole time. I kept imagining her waking up, finding the recorder, calling the police. But no sirens came. No texts. She thought I was still with Jack, probably complaining that his Wi-Fi sucked. At 10:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was her. A picture of our cat sitting in the window with the caption, "Someone's waiting for you, paw prints, Red Heart." The lies had gotten cute. I drove straight back to the house, timed it while she was at her 11 a.m. yoga class, the one she always left for in full makeup, and came home from still glowing. I retrieved the recorder and rushed back to the motel like it was ticking with dynamite. I sat on the edge of the bed, plugged in the tiny headphones, and pressed play. The first 2 hours were nothing: soft footsteps, a toilet flush, pages turning. I started to think I was insane. And then, at timestamp 2 hours, 41 minutes and 9 seconds, I heard her answer a call. Not on speaker. Just her voice. Soft. Gentle. But rehearsed. She said, "Yeah, He still doesn't suspect a thing. He actually offered to cover the whole weekend for me. I didn't even ask. It's almost too easy. Silence. Then her laugh. That same hollow, syrupy laugh I used to believe meant she was happy. Then she continued, "No, I told him it's a mental health retreat. He got all supportive, said I deserved it. Honestly, I could have told him I was flying to the moon and he'd pack my suitcase." Pause. A sigh. "No, not yet. He's not stupid. He's just slow. You have to peel it in layers." You. She was talking to him. Therese. I knew it without needing to hear his name. Her tone changed when she spoke to him, less guarded, more flirtatious. Like someone taking off a mask. And then, minutes later, I heard her say the sentence that made me clench the mattress so hard my knuckles cracked. "I think I'll tell him after the trip. Maybe spin it as needing space. He won't make a scene. He's not that kind of man." No, I wasn't. I was worse. I was the man who had believed her when she said we were just in a quiet season. I was the man who had nodded when she said she needed room to breathe, who took the couch when she said her back hurt, who paid the bills while she whispered into someone else's ear about how easy I was to lie to. But not anymore. Not this version of me. This version of me had a folder of audio recordings and a calendar alert set for the exact day she'd pack her bags and vanish into the woods with another man. Only now, I'd be there first. And when she arrived, there wouldn't be wine and candles waiting. There'd be me. And a truth she couldn't outrun. I kept the recordings. I labeled them by timestamp, clipped the key moments, and uploaded everything to a cloud folder under a name no one would ever search, Board Game Rules PDF. I listened to her entire conversation twice, first to feel the sting of every word, second to memorize the rhythm of her deception. She lied with such ease, such muscle memory, that I started to wonder how long it had really been going on. Was this the first affair? Or just the first I had noticed? I started seeing everything differently. Her smiles. Her little kindnesses. That weekend she brought me coffee in bed and said, "I know you've been tired lately." Now I wonder if she was softening me up for something she couldn't yet confess. Or maybe she never planned to confess at all. Maybe the plan was always to disappear while I was still grateful she hadn't left sooner. I had 3 days until the retreat. She was calling it a solo healing trip, but I knew better. The cabin I had booked was a 1-bedroom with a hot tub and a private deck. Romantic, isolated, scenic, the perfect place to grieve a failed marriage or celebrate its erasure. So I made adjustments. I canceled the cleaning service that was supposed to prep the cabin before her arrival. I added a second parking permit to the reservation without telling her. I rerouted the final payment to a prepaid card in my name. Every step she took toward that trip was now passing through my control. But I didn't act different. That was the key. If she even sniffed suspicion on me, the whole plan could collapse. So I leaned in. I became even more devoted. Made dinner. Rubbed her shoulders. Asked questions like I still cared. "How's yoga been? Are you excited for the trip? Should I pack you some of that tea you like?" And she responded like the world was perfect. Like we were perfect. She even kissed my forehead Thursday morning and said, "Don't miss me too much, okay?" That night, I laid out her suitcase for her. Helped her fold sweaters. Loaded her audiobook playlist onto her phone. She kissed me longer than usual before heading out. Car full of snacks and a stack of self-help books she'd never opened. "I'll text when I arrive," she said, smiling. "I know you will," I replied. And then I watched her drive off. At 4:37 p.m. By 5:12 p.m., I was already on the road behind her. I waited 15 minutes to leave, took a different highway, then cut across through the back roads until I was a full hour ahead of her. I reached the cabin just as the sun was setting behind the trees. The gravel cracked beneath the tires like dry bones. Everything was still. I walked inside. It smelled like cedar and silence. I opened every drawer, every closet. I checked for cameras, microphones, anything she might later use to twist the story. There was nothing. Just clean linens and an old radio on the nightstand. I unpacked one small bag, laptop, flash drive, the printed transcripts from the recording. I placed them neatly on the coffee table beneath a ceramic bowl of trail mix, then made myself tea and waited. I left the lights off. Her ETA was 7:45. She texted at 7:42. "Here. Looks amazing. I'll unload and call you in a bit, Red Heart." I watched through the slats of the blinds as she stepped out of the car in that oversized beige sweater she always wore on plane rides. She looked peaceful, free, like someone walking into a future they think they deserve. She didn't knock. Why would she? The cabin was hers. Paid for. Gifted. No suspicion. No second thoughts. The door creaked as it opened. She stepped inside with a laugh, still mid-sentence with whoever she had on the phone, probably him. Yeah, I just got in. Place is cute. I'll send you a pic of the deck in a sec. I'm so Gile. She stopped. I was already sitting on the couch, legs crossed, mug of tea in hand. She blinked. Frozen. And then I said it. Calmly. Celia. We need to talk. She tried to hide it. The flicker in her eyes. The microsecond of panic. But it was there. The unraveling had begun. She ended the call without saying goodbye. Franklin, she said, voice shaking but force steady. What are you doing here? I didn't answer. Not yet. I reached across the table and slid the flash drive toward her. On it, every lie, every recording, every whisper she thought had evaporated. Her hand didn't move. And for the first time in years, she didn't have a script. The silence in that cabin was unlike any I had ever heard. It wasn't the kind of silence that asks you to speak. It was the kind that made speaking feel pointless. Celia stood in the doorway like she'd stepped into the wrong life by accident. Her hand was still on the knob, her phone frozen against her hip. I could see her thumb trembling slightly. That's how I knew the panic was real. I let her sit first. I didn't say a word, didn't motion, didn't invite. I just waited. Like she'd done to me for the past 2 years, left me guessing, left me spinning, left me alone in a room full of lies. And when she finally moved toward the chair across from me, her every step was calculated. Slow, cautious, careful, like she was approaching a cliff she didn't know was crumbling beneath her. Is this some kind of she started? But I cut her off with just a look. She stopped mid-sentence. That alone told me more than anything. Celia was never the kind of woman who paused. She ran conversations like she ran our marriage, precisely, confidently, with rehearsed warmth. But now she couldn't even finish a sentence without checking my face first. You lied, I said. Just those 2 words. No accusation, no raised voice. But it echoed in the room like a gunshot. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. I leaned forward and nodded toward the flash drive. Everything's on there. The call from the office. The bedroom conversation. The retreat plans. The details you thought were too quiet to be recorded. Her eyes flicked down at the drive, but never moved to pick it up. You recorded me? I laughed under my breath. It wasn't a joyful laugh, more like air escaping a balloon that had been overfilled for years. No, Celia, I said, you recorded yourself. I just pressed play. That's when her composure began to crack. Not all at once, but in tiny fractures, her shoulders tightening, her foot starting to bounce, her lip twitching as if she was preparing to cry but couldn't decide who to cry for. Me? Herself? Him? This is insane, she muttered, looking away. You followed me here? This is controlling, Franklin. This is manipulative. That word. Manipulative. The irony of it struck me so hard I almost choked. I looked at her, really looked, and saw the version of her that had always been there beneath the surface. The way she used softness as armor. The way she turned discomfort into guilt and guilt into silence. The way she had made me feel bad every time she pulled away. Celia, I said calmly, you told him I was slow. That I'd never figure it out. That you could say anything and I'd pack your suitcase. Her lips parted again, the beginning of a protest, but there was nothing she could say. Not now. Not when the words she thought were private were now sitting 5 feet away on a flash drive she couldn't touch. I don't care about him, I continued. Reese? Trent? Whoever he is, doesn't matter. This was never about him. This was about you thinking I was something you could outgrow, throw away, and walk away from with a clean conscience. I didn't want to hurt you, she said quickly, too quickly. A reflex. I didn't know how to tell the truth. I cut in. Silence again. I was going to, she whispered. Eventually. No, I said. You weren't. You were going to wait until I handed you the keys to your new chapter, smiled like a fool, and waved goodbye while you disappeared into a weekend of lies. You were never going to tell me. You were going to thank me for supporting you while you betrayed me. She dropped her head into her hands. Finally, the weight of it all was starting to press down. I didn't plan it this way, she muttered. You did, I said. You just didn't expect me to watch. And then the question came. The one I knew was coming, the one I had rehearsed answering but still wasn't ready to face. So what now? She asked. What are you going to do? I leaned back. That was the thing. I didn't know yet. I hadn't come here with a grand finale. I didn't want a dramatic confrontation or a viral video moment. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the truth. And now that I had it, Now that the mask was off, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sorrow. Just done. I stared at her for a long time, watching her face shift through guilt, fear, frustration, even anger. All the emotions she never showed me while we were still married in spirit but not in reality. I'm not going to scream, I said. I'm not going to beg. And I'm not going to fix this. She blinked. Then why come here? She asked. To watch it fall apart, I said softly. To see the exact moment when you stopped pretending. Because I wanted to make sure it was real. That it wasn't just a bad dream I could wake up from. Her voice broke. It was real, Franklin. It was real for a long time. No, I said, standing up. It was just mine. That's the part you'll never understand. I walked toward the door without looking back. She didn't follow. She didn't call after me. She just sat there in the same chair where I'd waited for her. For the first time, we were silent together, and it finally meant something. I didn't slam the door. I didn't peel out of the gravel driveway or scream into the trees or break down in the car like some poetic fool. I just turned the ignition, adjusted my seatbelt, and drove. The cabin disappeared in the rearview mirror like a bad photo you swipe past without saving. She didn't try to stop me. I didn't give her the space to try. What would she even say? That it wasn't what it looked like? That she had planned to tell me after one last weekend of healing? No. I'd already heard everything worth hearing. Everything else would just be noise. But I didn't go home either. I drove aimlessly for hours, through back roads and empty county highways, the radio off, my phone muted. I remember passing a gas station, its single flickering sign saying cold beer, hot pizza, regrets welcome. I nearly stopped. I didn't. I kept going. It's strange how betrayal doesn't hit you all at once. It comes in layers. First shock, then anger, then that hollow place where you try to make sense of it by reliving every memory through a different lens. It's like rewatching a movie you once loved only to realize half the characters were lying the entire time. You don't just lose trust in the person, you lose trust in the version of yourself who believed them. Somewhere around 11:30 p.m., I pulled into a motel that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since the late 90s. I paid in cash because I didn't want a record of where I was. Not because I was hiding, but because I finally understood what it meant to be free of her eyes. The room smelled like mildew and microwave popcorn. There was a Bible in the drawer and a cracked mirror above the dresser. I didn't sleep. I just sat at the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. I stared at a blank Word document for a long time before finally typing out the email subject line, joint account closure request. Then I logged into our bank. She hadn't touched it yet. Maybe she thought I wouldn't act, that I'd need time, that I'd collapse, that I'd still be the same man who once offered to rub her feet after she told me she was too tired to talk. But I wasn't that man anymore. I wasn't numb, I was alert, sharpened by pain. I transferred my half to a new account I had quietly opened a week prior, when suspicion first bloomed. I didn't take more, just exactly 50%. Let her explain to her retreat partner why the love nest suddenly lost its funding. Then I turned to the next thing on my list, the apartment. Technically, it was mine, bought before we got married. She had never put her name on the deed. I had suggested it, once. She'd smiled and said, "Why complicate things?" Now I saw the brilliance of that smile. It was the same one a magician gives you while hiding a card in the other hand. Distraction masked as affection. So I wrote a letter. Formal. Cold. Legal. Notice of termination of residency. Effective immediately. Signed, the owner. Me. She had 30 days to figure out where to go. I would give her that grace, only because I had once loved her enough to believe she could never lie. And then came the last thing. The part one hadn't planned for, not even when I was staring her in the face with all the evidence between us. I called my brother, Gavin. He answered on the third ring, groggy. Frank. Yeah, dude. It's 1 a.m. I know. Sorry. Can I crash at your place for a bit? Silence. Then, softer, are you okay? I opened my mouth, but the words didn't come. My throat tightened. I hadn't said it out loud yet. Not to anyone. She cheated, I whispered. And just like that, everything I'd been holding in came out in a single, cracked syllable. He exhaled like someone had punched him in the gut. Oh. Frank. Yeah, man. You can stay as long as you need. Just get here safe, okay? And I drove. Not to my home. Not to her. But towards someone who knew me before the lies, before the quiet unraveling, before I became the man who plays takeout on the counter while his wife was upstairs giving someone else's future. When I got to Gavin's, he was waiting outside. Didn't ask questions. just hugged me and pointed toward the couch. The old familiarity in that moment, the smell of his cologne, the half-burned-out porch light, the way he handed me a blanket without making eye contact. It was the closest thing to peace I'd felt in months. And while I sat there, staring at the ceiling in the early hours of the morning, I realized something important. This wasn't the end of a marriage. It was the end of a performance. And for the first time in years, I was no longer part of the cast. It was late afternoon when my phone finally rang. I had been staying at Gavin's for 3 days by that point, waking up on his creaky couch, drinking burnt coffee from his chipped mug, watching daytime television I didn't even pretend to follow. I hadn't told him much more than she cheated, and to his credit, he didn't press. He let me sit in silence, let me zone out. That was the thing about Gavin. He never needed to fill space with words to make you feel safe. He just was. But that afternoon, when my phone buzzed, I knew it was her. I recognized the tone before I even checked the screen, the long, pulsing ring she had set for herself when she first got her new number 2 years ago. A fun, flirty sound, she called it. It sounded like an alarm now. My hands didn't shake, but my jaw tightened the moment I saw her name, Celia. I didn't answer. Not at first. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. 2 minutes later, another call. Then a third. By the fourth, curiosity overrode caution. I answered, but said nothing. Her voice came through the line soft, breathless, like she'd been crying, or worse, rehearsing. Franklin. The way she said my full name struck me. She hadn't called me that in years. It was always Frankie or Babe, or, when she was annoyed, just hey. But now she said Franklin, like it was a lifeline, like it gave her gravity. I still said nothing. I don't know where to start, she said. I've been trying to. I know, I said, cutting her off. You've always been good at trying. Not so much at finishing. Silence. Then she said it. The thing cheaters always say when they start to realize the scaffolding of their lies has finally collapsed. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. And I laughed. Not loudly. Not mockingly. Just hollow. The kind of laugh that carries years of disappointment behind it. Didn't mean for what to happen, Celia? I asked. The affair? The lies? Or me finding out about it before you could stage your little exit monologue? I was scared, she said. Scared of hurting you. Scared of leaving the comfort we built. I wasn't planning to. You weren't planning to get caught, I snapped, suddenly too exhausted for the polite tap dance. That's what you mean. She sniffed. Whether it was from actual tears or just the performance, I didn't know. And frankly, I didn't care. I made a mistake, she said quietly. No, I replied. You made a series of choices. Over weeks, maybe months. And you made them in silence. You chose him. You chose secrecy. You chose to smile at me while packing your lies in a suitcase I paid for. Her breathing was uneven now. He didn't mean anything, Franklin. I swear. It was just. Then why lie? I asked. Why not come clean? Why not ask for space honestly, instead of dressing it up in fake wellness retreats and yoga weekends? I didn't think you could handle it, she said. I thought you'd. I don't know. Fall apart. That one stung more than I expected. Because I had fallen apart. But not because of the truth, because of the performance. Because of the lies told so gently they almost sounded like love. You don't know me, I said. You never did. You loved the version of me who held the camera while you posed. Who stood beside you while you performed the perfect life. But you never asked who I was underneath. Franklin, I want to fix this, she said suddenly, desperate now. We can talk to someone. Go to a counselor. I'll do whatever it takes. I made a horrible mistake and I still love you. I felt nothing. Not rage. Not sympathy. Just fatigue. I'm not mad you cheated, I said. I'm mad you rehearsed it. That you wrote a script for me without telling me I was an extra in your escape story. She was crying now. I could hear it clearly. Sobbing into the receiver, whispering my name like saying it enough would reverse everything. I want to come home, she said finally. I let that sit for a moment. Then I said, calmly, it's not your home anymore. And I ended the call. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't cry. I just turned off the ringer and slid it into my jacket pocket. Gavin walked into the room a few minutes later with a sandwich in one hand and a water bottle in the other. He didn't say anything, just handed me the food and sat down beside me. I took a bite, chewed, swallowed. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. I never blocked Celia. I didn't have to. After that last call, she stopped trying. Maybe she thought I'd cool off. Maybe she convinced herself that silence would preserve some dignity. Or maybe, finally, she realized I was serious. That the man who once folded her sweaters with care was the same man who now folded up her place in my life, sealed it shut, and left it behind. I moved out of Gavin's apartment that fourth week. Not because I had everything figured out, but because I was done sitting still. I found a modest rental near the edge of town, a second-floor walk-up with squeaky floors and sunlit corners. It smelled like new paint and possibility. The kind of place you walk into and feel like no ghosts are waiting. The kind of place that doesn't remind you of the time someone said, "I love you," and didn't mean it. One morning, while unpacking a box of books, I came across something strange. An old photo of me and Celia from a Halloween party 6 years ago. We were dressed like a king and queen, laughing in matching velvet. My hand was on her back. Her eyes were on the camera. I stared at it for a long time, expecting a flood of sadness. But it never came. Instead, I slipped the photo into the trash without a second thought and went back to organizing the shelves. That's when I knew I was healing. Strangely, the moment everything changed wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some movie scene or poetic epiphany. It was ordinary. I was in a coffee shop, laptop open, trying to update my resume. I hadn't touched it in years. My job at the university still paid the bills, but something about it now felt hollow. Like I'd outgrown the safety net. Like I wanted something more. That's when I heard her voice. Not Celia's. Someone new. "Sorry, are you using this charger?" I looked up. She was holding out a spare cable, smiling gently. Her name was Laurel. She was writing her thesis on behavioral psychology and had 3 notebooks spread out like a storm on the table beside me. I said no, thank you. I had my own, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled back at someone in a minute. We ended up talking for almost an hour. About books. About coffee. About how bad the music was in the cafe. She was funny. Sharp. A little chaotic. She cursed too much and laughed too loud, nothing like Celia. Which, as it turned out, was exactly what I needed. We didn't fall in love overnight. That's not how real healing works. But we did start walking to the parking lot together after long afternoons at the coffee shop. She asked questions and actually waited for the answers. She noticed things, small things, like the way I bit the inside of my cheek when I was deep in thought. She didn't try to fix me. She just made space for me to be seen. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being the man who came home to betrayal. I became the man who built a life after it. One morning, months later, I got an email from Celia. A short message. No subject line. "I'm sorry. For everything. I hope you found something better." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because by then, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken. I wasn't her ghost. I was just me. Whole. Moving forward. Coffee in one hand, open heart in the other. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I finally believed what I wrote in my journal the night I left that cabin. This isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of everything I never gave myself permission to imagine.